Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today by supporting the Going In Raw Patreon. You can enjoy access to the live taping of the show, exclusive merchandise, and patron-only episodes, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description. Hey friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
So with the ongoing legal drama between Billy Corgan and TNA, hopefully leading to a solvent, healthy company, we figure we'd look at some other litigious moments in pro wrestling history.
So be sure to read your contract carefully before you watch us count down the 10 biggest pro wrestling lawsuits.
WWF versus World Wildlife Fund. For old bastards like us, 2002 was a trying year where we all had to learn how to say WWE instead of what we grew up saying, WWF.
That's right, and hell, even to this day I still trip up sometimes, and it's all due to those nature lovers over at the World Wildlife Fund.
In 1994, though, it seemed like Titan Sports Inc., the parent company for the WWF, agreed that the Swedish Foundation would actually have priority in this matter. But whether it was thanks to Vince's ego or just an unwillingness to rebrand yet, the company kept using the F until a lawsuit was filed.
And of course, a court in the UK told Vince to get the F out. There were some allowances made to let certain pieces of footage remain untouched since they had been using the name since 1979, but the iconic scratchy logo was being used by the WWF up to that point, even though they knew better, so that was to be blurred out in videos forever after.
Well, almost forever after. As the 1000th episode of Raw approached, it was revealed that a deal was made to unblur the scratch logo, which was most likely made a priority because the WWE Network was on the horizon.
And that would have been annoying when binging through old episodes of Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, I feel like this could have been handled way easier. WWF should have traded for a giant panda to wrestle John Cena. Who doesn't want to see that? Hulk Hogan versus Vince Russo! We all love a good Hulk Hogan story, and this one may be my favorite.
It all centers around Bash at the Beach 2000, where Hulk was set to take on Jeff Jarrett for the WCW World title. Slat Nuts comes out, lays down, and Hogan, looking annoyed, gets the reluctant pin. This is followed by lead booker Vince Russo coming down and eviscerating Hogan on the mic.
Hogan then left the arena, apparently upset. This turned into a he said situation. Russo claiming Hogan knew this was how it would all go down, and Hogan claiming he was blindsided, and then sued Russo for defamation.
The Hulkster lost the lawsuit, but this was merely a false finish, as the judge did argue that WCW may have violated Hogan's contract by not putting him in at least 6 pay-per-views per year and denying him full creative control of his character and the outcome of all his storylines.
To which Russo said, "Hogan, you piece of shit!"
Yeah, and just like most wrestling feuds, this mess kept going on way too long, with WCW countersuing and covering all of Russo's legal expenses.
In fact, the grudge was so strong here that the court cases continued even past when most of WCW was sold to the WWF, when the leftovers of WCW were known as Universal Wrestling Corporation.
In the end, it was a giant waste of time for both parties involved, but perhaps it prepared Hogan for another legal battle to come.
WWF versus the Outsiders. So when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash left the WWF to go try out where the big boys play,
which is not an adjective, Kevin Nash, it's a verb. Play is a verb.
Okay, Nash's grammar skills aside, Eric Bischoff made sure the two were both less than forthcoming about who they actually were, implying heavily that Razor Ramon and Diesel might actually be invading the company and thus creating a ton of buzz.
Mr. Controversy Creates Cash may have had a good idea here, as it was engaging for fans, boosted the ratings, and led to the NWO storyline.
The WWF wasn't buying it though, claiming in a lawsuit that WCW was using the resources and hard work they put into creating these two characters to make money for WCW.
The WWF went as far as to claim that WCW had to be guilty because they had no reputation for creativity. The Outsiders helped kick off a boom period for WCW, but in the end, it may not have been worth it. This shit lasted until 2000, not long before the company was sold in 2001.
Very true, as this initial lawsuit actually helped spawn a slew of others, which may have played a role in WCW's downfall, or at least helped TNT make the decision to put the company out of its misery.
Also, the initial case granted WWF the right to bid on WCW assets, and all they had to do was promise to buy some advertising time on TNT.
During the New Adventures of Robin Hood or Mortal Kombat Conquest. Chris Amon versus CM Punk. Switching to something more recent, there are still fans out there that are bummed about CM Punk leaving the WWE only to get murdered in the UFC. I count myself as one of those people.
But one fight he might be able to win is his legal case with WWE physician Dr. Chris AMANN, who filed a defamation case that charged Punk with lying about care he received while still with the WWE.
Or didn't receive. Of course, this retelling of events was in the now famous Thanksgiving 2014 Art of Wrestling podcast, where he spilled the beans to his friendo Colt Cabana.
Former friendo, according to rumor, because even though the suit is still ongoing, Cabana decided it'd be cool to attend a WWE show and take some pictures with some stars backstage while looking chummy. Punk then unfollowed Colt on Twitter, which is like the most middle school way of letting people know you don't like someone.
And the case looks like it'll keep on going for quite some time, unless WWE and the best in the world reach some sort of agreement, as it isn't set to actually enter court anytime soon.
Kinda doubtful they'll settle though, as Punk is known to be pretty stubborn, and Vince seemed sternly on Amann's side, with Punk even claiming that Vince is funding the suit.
Which wouldn't be terribly surprising, considering how damning some of Punk's statements were about the WWE pushing their talent to compete regardless of injury.
Do you think when Punk takes the stand, he'll call his testimony a pipe bomb?
I hope not. That doesn't sound like the judge would appreciate that very much.
I hope he walks to the stand to cult of personality.
Again, not sure the judge would appreciate that. It'd be rad. Ultimate Warrior versus the WWE. Okay, with all due respect to the Warrior,
May he rest in power.
the man was a bit crazy and had a tumultuous relationship with Vince McMahon, filing several lawsuits against the WWE, one as recently as 2006.
The majority of which revolved around the use of his character in defamation.
He was mostly upset at the WWE for producing that great DVD, The Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, a project that he was originally asked to help work on.
Jim Hellwig tried to cement his claim by legally changing his name to Warrior, giving those kids he spawned, I guess, the coolest last name of whatever school they attend.
Or the last name most likely to get them picked on. The lawsuit ended in 2009, but not in Warrior's favor, and the face-painted legend would barely be heard from again until he was brought back for his Hall of Fame induction in 2014.
This was also sadly just before his final Raw appearance and untimely death. Even though Warrior had spent more time fighting against WWE than fighting for them, this still hit his fans hard.
The Warrior may have been a controversial figure inside and outside the ring, but it's nice that his family got to see him celebrated to such a large degree before his passing.
And by the end, he seemed to have genuinely made peace with the company that made him a household name.
Yeah, we're not going to mention all the crazy right-wing homophobic stuff that he said, though. We won't mention that. Billy Corgan versus TNA! It wasn't long ago that it seemed like big news coming out of TNA that Smashing Pumpkins frontman Billy Corgan, oddly enough, would be taking over as president, leaving Dixie Carter as chief financial officer. It looked like the first step in attempts to finally restructure and handle many of the financial and executive problems that had been holding the company back.
Corgan, by his own account, has financially helped save the company from the brink of bankruptcy. Without his help, it's entirely possible TNA wouldn't still be producing content.
But his help wasn't strictly due to him being a big wrestling fan. The man wanted a piece of the pie, so his contributions have led to him owning a good bit of the company. Or maybe not, and it isn't hard to imagine that he wants the rest of it.
The world is a vampire, Steve, and so is Corgan apparently. He is now suing TNA and their parent company, Impact Ventures LLC, with Dixie and other key figures in the company being named specifically.
As surprising as this was, the drama really ramped up when the rock star was awarded a temporary restraining order on Carter and other TNA officials.
Not to mention that the state of Tennessee is getting in on the action, going after some tax money they're owed. The lien itself could actually cost TNA everything if the debt isn't settled.
This is obviously still ongoing and many of the documents are still sealed from public view, but I'm betting they involve Corgan wanting to make TNA his own Siamese dream.
I imagine he'll experience infinite sadness if he loses.
You know what? The world is a vampire line was fine. We probably should have just stopped there with the Smashing Pumpkins references.
When he wins the suit, he'll probably say to himself,
yeah, what?
Today is a good day.
That's
the best day he ever known.
I was going to say, is that Ice Cube or Smashing Pumpkins?
Smashing Pumpkins.
Okay. Concussions versus WWE. With concussions being taken as seriously as they are now, there's little surprise that a group of up to 53 wrestlers with histories in the WWE, WCW, and ECW are all joining together to get some payback from the biggest wrestling promotion available.
Not only is WWE accused of not giving proper medical care to their workers, but willingly withholding findings that prove the damage of long-term head injuries.
There's plenty of anecdotal evidence out there that suggests the business of pro wrestling was one where the show came before the wellness of the talent. By and large, listening to old-timers talk, you get the impression that wrestling hurt or even injured was simply part of the job.
With the strict wellness policy currently in place, it does seem as though the WWE has taken major strides in ensuring the health of their talent comes first. Just ask Daniel Bryan. But just because WWE is being more careful with its current talent, it doesn't mean they'll admit to any past wrongdoings.
Hell, they even called this lawsuit ridiculous in their official response, citing that the current attorney, Konstantin Kiros, has attempted 2 other suits filed against the company and failed.
Needless to say, it isn't looking good for the wrestlers and will most likely be held up in court for a while.
Is it weird that a former wrestler got Chris Benoit's brain to poke around at for research, and his brain is what they're basing most of the modern research off of?
That dude's head absorbed how many flying headbutts?
A lot.
It is weird, but it's definitely not surprising.
If any brain was to be poked at, it'd be his. Devin Nicholson versus Abdullah the Butcher. Devin Nicholson, a fairly successful indie wrestler, also known as Hannibal, drew attention in the industry after making shocking accusations about one of the pioneers of hardcore wrestling, Abdullah the Butcher, accusing Abdullah of cutting Nicholson without his consent during a match and infecting him with hepatitis C.
Sadly, after Nicholson made his claim, he became somewhat of a pariah in the wrestling industry and had a contract with the WWE canceled due to his prognosis.
This led Nicholson to retrace his steps, ensuring he could only have received the rare form of Hep C from Abdullah, and then he filed suit for damages.
Abdullah, real name Larry Shreve, seemingly didn't take the lawsuit seriously, as he mostly tried to no-sell the whole thing.
Yeah, he was called a difficult plaintiff by the judge, and often failed to show up to proceedings, and refused to hand over requested medical forms.
Nicholson was awarded over $2 million in damages, but I'm guessing that won't be easy to collect.
Yeah, now it seems he's been cured of the Hep C, though, through some experimental medicines, and even tried out for the WWE again with no luck.
A video he made as an audition tape did appear for a few seconds in a montage of 2015 Tough Enough applicants, and he now has a YouTube channel where he conducts shoot interviews with a wide array of industry veterans.
Plus, he beat hepatitis C. That's like the ultimate finisher. I didn't think that was possible. Hulk Hogan versus GAWKER. The most sensational pro wrestling lawsuit in history centered around the Hulkster getting his Brian Knob slobbed in a hidden camera sex tape.
After the video of Little Hogan and Bubba the Love Sponge's wife was posted online, Hulk Hogan, aka Terry Bollea, and Gawker Media went to war in Florida in a legal battle that would decide Gawker's future.
Because Hogan was suing for all the money Gawker could have and more.
The media group has done some questionable things in the past, but publishing 2 minutes of the video,
which only had about 10 seconds of good old pornography action,
cost them dearly, as Hogan won the case and was awarded $115 million and then another $25 million in punitive damages.
Hogan didn't come away unscratched though, as the back and forth got a bit ruthless and a lot was revealed about him through the other tapes. Gawker denied leaking the sealed documents that had Hogan using racial slurs, but the damage was done and WWE gave Hogan a big leg drop right in the middle of a season of Tough Enough where he was a judge.
Gawker also obeyed the judge by taking the video down, but made sure there was still a link available for anyone who wanted to see the excerpt in question.
In the end though, just another victory for the red and yellow and Hulkamaniacs everywhere, as it seems now that the WWE is starting the path towards bringing Hogan back into the family. Assuming after a lot of apologies, because he said some bad things. Martha Hart versus WWE. The WWE and the Hart family have had a relationship of ups and downs, like a big pink and black roller coaster life.
And Dr. Martha Joan Hart, the widow of Owen Hart, takes it more than just a footnote in their history.
As we all know, Owen died tragically at the Over the Edge pay-per-view in May of 1999, falling from the rafters during a failed attempt to perform a stunt as the Blue Blazer character.
Less than a month after Owen's death, Hart launched a wrongful death lawsuit that was settled out of court for $18 million. After giving some money to Owen's parents and setting a portion aside for her kids, the philanthropist used the rest to start the Owen Hart Foundation, a charity organization to help the less fortunate.
Then she cut herself off from the Hart family, claiming that many of them sided with the WWE and the wrestling business instead of her. She even eventually sued her sister-in-law over some comments in the book Under the Mat Inside Wrestling's Greatest Family, which then had to be removed from shelves.
Hart went out again in 2010, suing the McMahons this time for the use of Owen's likeness in several DVDs under the WWE banner and unpaid royalties on merchandise sold since the wrestler's death.
Owen's widow has been incredibly successful in her lawsuits as well. She's either won or received settlements on each of her cases, even making Nancy Grace apologize live on TV for insinuating Owen's death was something other than it actually was, a horrible accident.
She hasn't exactly won everything though, as Hart did drop some of the various claims in her suits, which led some to take stock in Bret Hart's comments that this was all as much for her and the media attention as it was for Owen and other wrestlers.
Yeah, but that's Bret. At this point, him saying negative shit is just par for the course. All these lawsuits did eventually give rise to a new DVD though, Owen, Heart of Gold, in the hopes that one day he may be in the WWE's Hall of Fame. You'd think that happened sooner than later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, those are the biggest pro wrestling lawsuits we could think of. Let us know what you guys think in the comments.
And tomorrow we have a countdown of the arrests.
Oh yeah, when they're in the chain.
Yeah, when wrestlers get arrested.
Yeah, not good for them, but it can be good for us. I mean, you know, we talk about this stuff, learn from their mistakes.
Oh,